7 countries, zero fluff, and at least one of them will make the idea of retiring in the United States feel genuinely absurd. Retirement costs in America have quietly crossed into crisis territory. The average American needs over $1 million saved just to maintain a modest lifestyle into their 80s. Healthcare alone can run thousands per month. Property taxes keep climbing, and inflation isn't done yet. But here's what the mainstream financial press almost never covers. A growing wave of Americans are discovering that retiring abroad, specifically outside of Europe, can unlock a lifestyle that's objectively better. Lower taxes, lower costs, better weather, and in some cases, residency that takes less paperwork than a car loan. These aren't obscure survival situations. These are real, established expat destinations with infrastructure, community, and in several cases, zero tax on foreign income. The last country on this list, it's quietly becoming the single most effective inflation hedge available to any retiring American. That payoff is coming, but first, let's start with the easiest entry point on the planet. Paraguay gets skipped in almost every retirement conversation. That's a mistake. This landlocked South American nation has quietly built what many immigration attorneys now call the most accessible legal residency pathway in the world. The financial barrier is genuinely low. A bank deposit in the range of $5,000 is typically sufficient to begin the residency process. There's no requirement to live there full-time, at least not in the early stages. But here's the part that matters most for American retirees. Paraguay operates a strict territorial tax system. Foreign income is simply not taxed. Social security payments, pension distributions, rental income from US properties, dividend income, none of it is subject to Paraguayan taxation. The cost of living reinforces this. A comfortable lifestyle in Asunción, the capital, can be maintained for well under $1,500 per month. Rent for a clean, modern apartment often falls between $300 and $600. Paraguay isn't for everyone seeking a paradise lifestyle. It's for people who want a clean, low-cost, legally straightforward backup residency, or a first step into international living without full commitment. Think of it as the world's most practical plan B. Get it established, then explore. And if Paraguay is the practical choice, the next destination is where practicality meets genuine luxury. Malaysia might be the most underrated retirement destination on earth. Kuala Lumpur, the capital, offers something almost impossible to find anywhere else in 2026. Genuine first-world infrastructure at a fraction of Western pricing. High-rise apartments with gym access, concierge services, and city views are available for under $700 per month. The equivalent in any major American city? Easily $4,000 or more. The Malaysia My Second Home program, commonly called MM2H, has gone through revisions over the past few years, and 2026 versions of the visa framework have become more structured. Different tiers now exist depending on the level of financial commitment, opening pathways for various income brackets. For retirees with consistent foreign income, the conditions are very manageable compared to what European countries demand. Healthcare in Malaysia is exceptional by regional standards, and medical tourism has made private care both accessible and affordable. English is widely spoken. The food culture is extraordinary, and the country sits at the center of Southeast Asia, making regional travel remarkably convenient. For anyone setting up connectivity before arrival, services like Saili offer flexible international data plans that cover Malaysia and the surrounding region, useful before a local SIM is sorted. The geo-arbitrage opportunity here is hard to overstate. A retirement budget that feels tight in Texas feels wealthy in Kuala Lumpur. But if tax efficiency is the priority, and for many retirees it absolutely is, the next country operates on a level that almost nothing else matches. Panama doesn't get nearly enough credit for how intelligently it's positioned itself for American retirees. It uses the US dollar. There's no currency conversion stress, no exchange rate volatility eating into purchasing power. Everything priced in dollars, just like home, except home costs a fraction of what it does stateside. The territorial tax system is the headline. Panama only taxes income earned within Panama. Foreign income, including Social Security, US-based pensions, and investment returns, is completely outside the tax net. This is a legally established framework, not a loophole. The Pensionado Visa is one of the most generous retirement visa programs anywhere. Retirees with a guaranteed income as low as $1,000 per month from a pension or similar source qualify. Once granted, it unlocks significant discounts: 25% off airline tickets, 50% off hotel stays, 30% off hospital services, and more. Panama City itself is a modern, cosmopolitan capital. High-speed internet, international schools, top-tier hospitals, and a thriving expat community of tens of thousands of Americans are already there. The cost of living is higher than some Southeast Asian options, but still dramatically lower than comparable US cities. Stability matters in retirement. The next country has built an entire international reputation around exactly that. Uruguay rarely gets the spotlight, and that's precisely what makes it valuable. Often called the Switzerland of South America, Uruguay has maintained one of the most stable democratic systems on the continent for decades. Low corruption, strong rule of law, a functioning, respected judicial system. These things matter enormously when considering where to plant roots long-term. The financial incentive is genuinely compelling. Uruguay offers a 10-year tax exemption on foreign-sourced income for new residents. That means a decade of receiving US pension income, dividends, or Social Security without local tax liability. After that period, the standard tax system applies. But a decade of tax-free foreign income is a significant runway. Property in Uruguay, particularly outside Montevideo, remains reasonably priced compared to American equivalents. The coastal town of Punta del Este is world-famous and carries a premium, but smaller coastal communities offer oceanfront living at a fraction of that cost. Healthcare quality is high by Latin American standards. The culture is relaxed, genuinely welcoming to foreigners, and the country's small size, just over 3 million people, creates a sense of calm that many urban Americans find transformative. Uruguay delivers a premium quality of life. It just comes with a more temperate climate. For those drawn to something more dramatic and more unexpected, the next destination is now one of the fastest rising expat conversations of 2026. Mauritius sits in the Indian Ocean, roughly 2,000 kilometers off the southeastern coast of Africa. Most Americans have never seriously considered it. That's changing fast. The island has been aggressively positioning itself as a hub for high-net-worth retirees, digital nomads, and internationally mobile professionals. The premium visa structure allows extended stays with a path toward longer-term residency, and the financial thresholds, while not trivial, are structured to attract people with genuine foreign income, exactly the profile of a retiring American with savings or pension income. The tax environment is one of the most attractive in Africa and potentially globally, depending on residency structure and income type. Under certain qualifying conditions, local tax liability can be minimal or structured very efficiently. The lifestyle is extraordinary: white sand beaches, dramatic mountain backdrops, French and British colonial architecture blended with Indian Ocean culture. The food is genuinely world-class. English is an official language. Healthcare is solid and improving. Which one of these 7 countries stands out so far? Drop it in the comments. The answer from viewers is usually surprising. Mauritius isn't the cheapest option, but for retirees who want a lifestyle that matches anything in the Caribbean or Mediterranean, at a fraction of those costs, it's a serious conversation. The next country, though, is where the monthly budget shrinks dramatically. Ecuador is one of those places that sounds too good to be true until the math is checked. The country sits right on the equator, but at altitude. Cuenca, the most popular expat city, sits at over 8,000 feet above sea level. The result is a climate locals call eternal spring. Temperatures hover between 60 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit year-round, consistently. No heating bills, no air conditioning bills. That alone eliminates 2 of the largest recurring costs in most American households. Property prices in Ecuador can still be found under $100,000 for quality homes in well-established neighborhoods. Monthly rent for a furnished 2-bedroom apartment in Cuenca often falls between $400 and $700. Healthcare is where the numbers become genuinely remarkable. Private health insurance for a healthy retiree in Ecuador can run as low as $70 per month. Hospital care, specialist visits, and dental work all carry price tags that would seem fictional by American standards. Cuenca, Quito, and the coastal town of Salinas all have established expat communities, English-speaking services, and modern amenities. Ecuador also uses the US dollar, eliminating any currency risk. The pensionado retirement visa requires proof of a pension or retirement income. The bar is accessible for most Social Security recipients. Passive income stretches dramatically in Ecuador. Dramatically. But for the absolute maximum stretch of a retirement dollar, the final destination on this list operates on a different level entirely. Vietnam is winning, not in a flashy marketed way, in the quiet, relentless way that matters most. It's absorbing more retirement-age expats every year because the math simply cannot be argued with. Da Nang on the central coast has become one of the premier expat cities in all of Southeast Asia. Modern beachfront apartments, incredible local food, a laid-back coastal culture, monthly rent for a quality one-bedroom near the beach, often between $250 and $500. Ho Chi Minh City in the south is the urban version, dense, electric, full of international restaurants, co-working spaces, rooftop bars, and a social scene that rivals cities twice its size. Monthly costs for a comfortable lifestyle there, including rent, food, transportation, and entertainment, frequently under $1,000, often under $800. That's not a typo, under $800 per month for a full, comfortable urban lifestyle. For anyone flying into Vietnam for an exploratory visit, services like Kiwi can surface flexible flight combinations that significantly cut the cost of getting there from US departure cities. Vietnam's visa situation for long-term residents is still evolving in 2026. It requires planning and periodic renewal strategies, which a growing industry of local immigration consultants helps navigate. It's not the plug-and-play simplicity of Paraguay or Panama's pensionado system, but the trade-off is extraordinary. In a world where inflation has genuinely damaged the purchasing power of fixed retirement incomes, Vietnam is one of the only places where a social security check alone, even a modest one, can fund a legitimate lifestyle, not survival, a lifestyle. Would that trade-off be worth it? That's a question only worth answering after running the actual numbers, which almost always surprise people the first time. Now step back and look at all 7 of these countries together. Paraguay for frictionless residency and a zero-tax baseline. Malaysia for luxury infrastructure at developing world prices, Panama for dollar stability and pensionado perks, Uruguay for security, legitimacy, and a decade of tax-free foreign income, Mauritius for Indian Ocean lifestyle with genuine tax efficiency, Ecuador for eternal spring, ultra-low healthcare, and a dollar-denominated budget, Vietnam for maximum purchasing power and city life on a fraction of a US retirement income. None of these are Europe. None of them require selling everything and taking a leap of faith without information. All of them have established expat communities, legal residency pathways, and cost structures that make a US retirement budget go dramatically further. The conclusion isn't that America is bad. The conclusion is that retiring abroad in 2026 is more accessible, more legal, and more financially logical than most Americans have been told. The conventional financial advice says save more, spend less, delay retirement. The global alternative says move smarter. For anyone starting to explore these options seriously, links to residency resources and accommodation tools are in the description below, including options through Expedia for initial extended stays while exploring cities before committing to a lease. Start with research, run the numbers, and consider that the most powerful financial move in retirement might not be what gets invested in. It might be where the next chapter gets lived.